So welcome back everybody to another episode of the District 142 video podcast series, and I'm very excited about my guest today. Mr. Mike Mead is here with us today from Local Lodge 2202 in Seattle, Washington. He is also a vice president for Alaska Airlines for District 142. And Mike, you also hold a local lodge office, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, I'm the local lodge president.
That's what I thought. I thought that you were the president there and still were. There's a lot of changes going on in our local lodges right now, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time keeping up. We've got a lot of officer changes, but it's just it's the season. That happens a lot during the summer. But so you're doing double duty like a lot of people, and I know you're working hard and got a lot going on. You guys have had some organizing things going on out there. But we're gonna talk today in this episode of our video podcast. Our main focus is going to be on electronic meetings, or what some people would refer to as virtual meetings on the local lodge level. So let's start by and the Grand Lodge Convention in 2022. There was an amendment to, or a change, I should say, to the Constitution, the IAM Constitution that was voted in, that basically allows for electronic or virtual meetings. That was never there before. If you have a copy, anybody who's watching this, if you have a copy of the IAM Constitution, it would be the one that's the 2023 Constitution. You can find that information in Article D, and it's entitled Electronic Meetings and Voting, and that would be on page 113 of the Constitution. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what it basically does is it gives local lodges the option of adding a video version, or a live video stream option to their local lodge meetings, which we never had before. There are a lot of stipulations, a lot of caveats in place there. So I thought when this happened, I thought it was absolutely amazing, and I thought it was way past time that we should have this option. So you guys, Local Lodge 2202, I believe you might have been the first to do this. So how quickly did you start setting up the video meetings after the convention, after the adoption of the Constitution? How quickly did you jump on this?
Well, we actually already had a lot of the equipment ready to go. If we really go back even further than that convention, back in March of 2020, we asked for dispensation from the Grand Lodge to cancel our local lodge meeting in person. We didn't have any of the infrastructure to set up online.
Right.
We didn't have permission to do anything online, and really the focus was just keeping people safe. So we canceled the meetings, and then we canceled for the next several months until the Grand Lodge granted permission to have a limited type of meeting light, kind of virtually, if you so chose. And our lodge was all about that. We wanted to be doing virtually for a long time. We have members in our local lodge that are in Southeast Alaska, often remote places, Yakutat, Glacier Bay. They're
Wow.
not coming to the meeting in person ever, really. So having an opportunity to have an online option to keep people informed was important to us from the beginning. So we set that up right away. And then, we started actually doing it in this office at first. People were logging in from home. We were giving them very basic kind of overviews of updates, COVID kind of reminders, that kind of thing. So
Right.
when the Grand Lodge Convention came up, and I'm sure that this pandemic was a catalyst for this change, because it had been something that people had been asking for a long time, hadn't quite
Exactly.
gotten the support over the finish line yet. When they finally made an amendment to the Constitution, we were really ready to go. We'd already had practice doing it. It was just more structure that was given to us over what it should look like, or what we're allowed to do, or what we're not allowed to do. Because after that constitutional amendment passed, we received the circular from the Grand Lodge that I think it was several pages of instructions on what this should look like. And we discussed it as a local of what we should do. We made sure that we were complying with that circular, and we made sure that people were aware of what those rules were, such as keeping your camera on at all times, having your name, identifying yourself, that kind of thing. So we made sure that everybody was really aware that we can't proceed with a meeting until this is forward. So right as soon as that was passed, then we started, we put in for a change in our bylaws to allow for virtual meetings. And then as soon as that was approved, we were ready to go.
Wow. So did you have the support of the membership then pretty much from the beginning? Was at just in general, were the membership excited about this? Were they behind it? Was there any, you know, any fear at the beginning, or people have any, reservations about how this might affect voting or the elections, for their local, or was everybody pretty much on board from the beginning?
I would say it was overall supportive. I wouldn't call it really I wouldn't call them concerns so much as just clarifying questions. Like if I show up online, does that count towards meeting attendance for voting
Right.
for a month, that kind of thing? Once we clarified those questions and said yes, that counts for attendance, then people were all for it because you know we also have a good chunk of our membership or reservations agents. They work from home,
Right.
so this is just another avenue for participation where they're already living on you know the remote part of Washington State. They can log in after their shift, or if they're a shop steward, they can request time to attend the meeting in a private place, um, and participate fully. So there was never anybody who was like, "I'm concerned that this isn't going to be a good idea." Everybody wanted it.
Right.
Uh, the biggest concern is always like, well, is it going to be private? Is there going to be somebody from management or a non-member in the Zoom? And that's where it comes up to the local to really maintain the integrity of the meeting, right?
Right.
Um, so
So,
really
so,
paying attention to who's there.
so like you mentioned that even before the Constitution was passed and before the Grand Lodge convention, you guys had special dispensation from the Grand Lodge to do this. So was this something that you brought to the membership, like a proposal? Someone in a local lodge meeting brought up a proposal. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to purchase the equipment, and then you put it to a vote. Was that just the normal process to go about to get this underway?
Yeah. So one, like it's one thing to run a virtual only meeting. It's another thing entirely to try to run it in a hybrid format, which was
Right.
what the big change was, right? So I can use a camera and microphone on my laptop for virtual only. It's not going to be a problem.
No.
In a
Yeah.
situation where everybody needs to be able to see everybody else, which is something the circular mentions, is that everybody needs to, have that kind of connection. You need to have display boards. Fortunately, our local already had a display board that we used to teach classes. But there was other equipment. We had a camera, like a 360 camera that was recommended to us by another member who was familiar with conference technology. And so we looked into it and we requested it through our local lodge, motions. This is for hybrid meeting format. It's going to help everybody see everybody else. So you're not looking at like a camera of just a room with a bunch of ants where you can't really
Right.
see anybody. You'll actually be able to see faces. You'll be able to see the camera focus on the speaker when they're talking.
So you had said before you guys had an owl camera, and that's OWL, owl like the bird. District 142, we have a similar camera set up for our district lodge executive board meetings. So at the end of this podcast, we're going to put some information up on the screen for the members, and we'll put some information up about that particular camera. So was that something you guys already had, or did you go out and buy that just for these virtual meetings?
We bought it for the purpose of those meetings, but we understood that, it doesn't need to be limited to regular meetings either. This could be used for any type of virtual meeting that we want to do. I mean, the more that we grow as a lodge, both locally and the IAM as a whole, the more we're seeing like work from home situations becoming more common.
Yep. Yep.
And it's just critical to keep in contact with people. So we'll have the conference space for people that want to attend in person, but it's important that that person at home has a good view of what's going on. So we have actually like an office space that we use where it's just sort of set up in the center in case we want to have a meeting where, um, it's virtual, but it's not the regular lodge meeting. We'll use it for multi purposes. The nice thing about the owl is that it's very portable. You can just unplug it and move it as needed.
That's great. Now, who controls that? Like, say, so during the lodge meetings, do you have somebody that you appointed or was voted in as that's just their job during the local lodge meeting?
Well, I voluntold or appointed our communicator to do it. So
Yeah.
he was already tech savvy on things, so he was familiar with Zoom. He's familiar with what an HDMI cable is, or these
Right.
types of things that you need to know about hooking up visual and audio type setups. So I mean, the last thing you want, so preparation is really important when you're setting up for this meeting. It being a hybrid format, you have two audiences, right? You have the virtual audience and the audience sitting right in front of you. And the last thing you want to be doing is telling everybody, hey, okay, hold on. I know that you guys took time out of your shift to come here for our meeting, but we have to troubleshoot this for another 20 minutes, right?
Yeah,
So you really got to take care of that stuff ahead of time, whatever can be worked out, and have a backup plan. So there was one time actually we did a hybrid meeting, and our PDGC John Coveney was there, and our owl didn't work, or it just wasn't it just wasn't connecting for whatever reason. We did have a backup webcam to use that we were able to then. It wasn't as good
good.
as the owl, but it was still able to comply with the circular and allow us to move forward with the meeting.
So that's important. You had a plan B, you had a plan B in
Yeah.
place, and it worked.
Yep. Yep.
So,
So
so as far as meeting attendance goes, how's this improved your meeting attendance as far as numbers? I'm assuming numbers went up now as you've been able to add people in who normally wouldn't be able to make a physical meeting.
yeah, it has improved quite a bit. I think I would say that before, prior to COVID, our meeting attendance probably hovered around 40 on a regular
Hmm.
basis. Sometimes got up to 50 on like when there was a better attended meeting for whatever reason, like we were having an election that day or
Right.
something. Um, Now it's pretty 60 is pretty regular when you're counting both in person and hybrid or
Right.
and virtual. So to go up about 20 members on a regular basis, yeah, that's a big change.
That is, I
Right.
mean, let's face it, one of the hardest things for any local lodge is simply getting members in the door for meetings. We all know that can be a challenge. You know, you reach out, if you add one new member every month, if you add two new members every month, 10 new members you start bringing those members in, you're improving, and you hope that those members will pass that information along to other members and say, hey, I've started doing the virtual online meetings now. It's a piece of cake, and now you can attend, and now they'll start spreading the word to their fellow members.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remove those barriers. I mean,
Yep.
it's not about and people will find ways to say like, well, I was too busy, and that is what it is for members. But you
Yeah.
do have a certain section where they said, I would do this if this other thing was available for me, if the virtual format was a thing, or and those are the members we're trying to reach, where it's these barriers are just not helpful for growth.
Yeah.
And so if we can remove them, we can make this, we mitigate this in some way. If we can make this a more open process, so you understand what's going on with your union, that's going to in turn engage members. And I would say that as a result, we've had more active committees, which I know is another challenge for locals. When people
Absolutely.
can participate or they can hear what's going on with the committee, they're more likely to participate in the future. We've had reservations agents that have stepped up, which reservations has been harder. Like I said, they go working from home. A lot of times you don't see them ever again because they're just busy at home now.
They don't feel
Um,
connected.
they don't feel connected, about what's going on. And so why would I join the community service committee, when
Right.
I'm already all the way here and I never see any of you, right? So having that connection reestablished has allowed us to really activate members who otherwise wouldn't have been.
You guys have any plans for expanding in the future? You pretty good with where it is right now, or have you got plans for even taking this up to the next steps?
We've been using like a virtual type format where we can, where we're, it's not an official meeting, but we're having our committees touch base on a regular basis, right? So they're not,
Right.
it's not a regular lodge meeting, but they're encouraged to do so. And that way, again, it's easier for them to connect, easier for them to work together and collaborate. So we've also we for a while we had done some hybrid classes for people who couldn't come in. We have preferred to get the face to face because we just find there's a lot of distractions sometimes when somebody's trying to learn,
Right.
and it's better if they're in the classroom environment in that case. But if we need to, we have trained people that way. um,
Wonderful.
so there are ways to really expand on this and refine the processes and get people on board this way, and it's a very useful technology for unionism. I think it's probably underused still, but we're still finding ways to use it better.
You guys are setting the standard, and I mean we really appreciate that. And knowing we've got a local in District 142 who has stepped up and kind of taken this giant leap, so to speak. It makes me, especially as a communications director, this really means a lot to me because communications, of course, that's my livelihood, it's my lifeblood. And, I've said many, many a time, it's that old adage about you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Same thing comes with communications. You can put the information out there in so many different ways, but there's still other ways to explore to get the information out
Right.
to people to make sure that the correct information gets in people's hands. Because we all know when you go online, especially social media, we all know the naysayers and the haters are out there, and we all know there's people out there that spread false information. The most important thing is for people to hear information from the source. And the more ways we can get that out, the better. I think what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing. You're setting the standard, and I hope that there's somebody that will watch this video and they'll go back to their local lodge and say this is something we need to do. So my last question is what would you recommend to someone who wants to get this started in their local? What do you think is the first step they need to take?
Well, I would say, and thank you for the kind words about the progress we made. It's really a lot of work and a lot of people have put into it. But if somebody is just starting out, it really depends on where they are in the local, right? If you're a local lodge president, you're going to need to talk to your executive board. You're going to need to get some buy-in on this idea, right?
Yeah.
If you're a member who just wants more access, I mean, it's going to involve appealing to your executive board. It's going to involve getting other members to, encourage this at local lodge meetings and getting that conversation started.
All right.
Um, there is that sort of engagement that you want to show will be possible with a hybrid meeting, with a different forum, with a different way of doing things. And it's going to require really getting familiar with the technology too. So even if you're not a techie person, I mean, find that techie person. People want to
Everybody's
help the
got
union.
one.
People want to help the union. A lot of times they just don't know how. And so there are a lot of people who do know these things, who do know how to use like owl cameras and Zoom and would be that person who's administering the meetings, but don't know that this is a need, right?
Yep.
They just think that the only way to participate is being a shop steward who's
Right.
filing grievance. They don't want to do that, right? And so it's a matter of finding those individuals, activating them, and saying, like, I know you know how to do this stuff. You're really great at it. Can you please come to the next local lodge meeting and just offer that your service to the executive board for these types of meetings? And I think that you can really make a lot of positive change that way.
It's just another opportunity for people to get involved, and that's the great thing. Well, Mike, I
Definitely.
really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy day to talk to me today. And for our viewers, again, don't click off of this as soon as we say goodbye. There's going to be some screens come up, and we're going to have some links to some of the equipment that's being used for these virtual meetings. We're also going to have links where you can find excerpts from the IAM Constitution that spells out the rules for the electronic meetings and voting. And Whippensinger W3 put out a really good PDF presentation back in earlier in the summer, or actually, I think it was maybe in the spring, having to do with video conference and local lodge meetings. Mary McHugh put that together, and we will have a link to that. So if anyone would like to download that, it does a really good job of explaining what Mike and his local are doing, and it will give our viewers some more ideas of how they can get started and exactly what's involved with this. I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you as well.
Well, don't just carry on. Keep doing everything you're doing. To our viewers, stick around. Wait for that information, and we'll see you next time.